May the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our living Redeemer. Amen. They lifted their eyes, and there he was, hands raised in blessing, suspended between heaven and earth, ascending. The Gospel of Luke does not linger on the crowd's gasps, but you can almost hear the wonder and the quiet awe. They watched him go, and all the while his hands were lifted. Hands raised, blessing. Now, in our world, hands are often instruments of work, of touch, of grasping, and of giving. But in the Bible, hands can also carry meaning far beyond themselves. In the Old Testament, the high priest would lift his hands over the people, speaking the blessing of God. It was a posture of intercession, a gesture that said, I stand here between God and you, to bring God's mercy, to carry your need, to make things right. And so when Jesus lifts his hands as he ascends, we see that he is saying more than just farewell. He is saying, I am your high priest. Now, let us remember what that meant in the world of the law. On the Day of Atonement, the high priest would enter the Holy of Holies, the innermost chamber of the temple, where God's presence dwelled. And he carried the blood of sacrifice, offered on the altar first for his own sins and then for the sins of the people. And he would sprinkle it and confess and pray, standing as mediator between a holy God and a fallen people. It was terrifying work. One misstep could cost him his life. And yet, even as holy as that day was, even as carefully as God's law was observed, it could never solve the problem completely. The sacrifices were repeated. The sins kept coming. The law pointed to something greater, but it could not deliver the final answer. This is why Jesus' priesthood is so astonishing. He does not offer the blood of bulls or the blood of goats. He does not offer repeated sacrifices that merely shadow what is really needed. He offers himself, holy, innocent, precious. His own body and blood given and shed once and for all on the altar of the cross. The temple is no longer a building of stone and incense. The altar is the cross. The offering is his very life. And the God he prays to is satisfied. We call it atonement. God has accepted the sacrifice of his Son, and the sins of the whole world are covered, complete, forever. And now, he ascends. And even as he rises, those hands, pierced, wounded, beautiful hands, remain lifted. They are the eternal sign before the Father that the work is done. The sins are forgiven. The sacrifice still stands. And yet the priestly work continues. For as high priest, he does not retire. He continues to intercede for us. He stands before God as our advocate, our mediator, the one who speaks mercy, grace, and reconciliation on our behalf without end. Now, we might know that intellectually. We might be able to quote it and recite it and even teach it. But sometimes, even so, we might not feel it. We might not feel forgiven. There are days when guilt still clings, when doubt whispers, "Surely, this cannot be for me. Surely, this cannot be true." And that is exactly the moment to lift our eyes, to look at the ascended Christ, look at the priest with hands lifted forever in blessing. Look at the one whose wounds bear witness to our forgiveness, and to hear the word again, "You are forgiven. You are accepted. You are loved. You have an advocate with the Father." You know, I think of a courtroom, high and imposing, filled with the weight of accusation. And I imagine standing there, accused and guilty, knowing the penalty is deserved. And then the judge himself leans down, places the hand of mercy on your shoulder, and says, "This is done. Go free. You are mine." That is what Christ's priesthood is like. He carries our guilt, takes it into himself, and he presents it to the Father. And he never stops. He is the eternal advocate, the forever priest, standing for us without hesitation or end. So as we return from this vision of the ascension, take heart. Lift your eyes. Look at those hands raised in blessing. Remember the cross, the tomb, the empty grave, and now the exalted priesthood at God's right hand. Remember that Christ is not distant, not disinterested, not retired from caring for you, but He is active, present, interceding, advocating. Even when you cannot feel it, even when doubts press in, even when the world whispers that forgiveness is impossible, lift your eyes, look at His hands, and hear the blessing. And know that our high priest stands forever for us, offering mercy, grace, and reconciliation beyond measure. Amen.